What is up, YouTube? Live via satellite here, and today we're talking Kingdom. In particular, guys, today we're talking about... Listen, let's cut to the chase. You know what we're talking about today. We are talking about the death of the Top G himself.
I'm Top G. And while we're on the subject, I want to state here and now, that's what makes me such a fantastic individual.
Or at least the one in Kingdom, Kanki. But before we get into that, guys, if you're new here, click the subscribe button because we talk a lot about Kingdom. And if you like the video, it really helps out if you like the video. Now, we have a little bit more housekeeping to do before we get into this one, guys, because obviously I've been on a little bit of a hiatus. And listen, since I'm clairvoyant and I can already hear you guys typing away in the comments, I figured I'd just explain myself now. So it's been a little bit over a year, guys, and back in early 2022, I went on a little bit of a spiritual journey, a quest of sorts. Keeping a long story short, I trekked through the Himalayas, joined a monastery, hung out with some monks, and in the end gained total enlightenment and understanding of the meaning of life. Nah, that's just total bullshit. Honestly, guys, I'm just a very, very busy dude. And videos, even though they're just a few minutes for you guys, are hours and hours of time for me. And as of late, guys, it was just time that I didn't have. But trust me, I've been keeping up with my Kingdom, and I have been seeing a lot of your messages telling me it's time to make a video. So I'm here now. Enough of this jibber jabber. We got some things to talk about. First off, let me say, Hara, you did it. You got us. You blindsided me and about a million other Kingdom fans by killing Kanki. I did not expect this to happen. I didn't, especially when Naki went back. I'm thinking, okay, there's going to be some way that Hara gets Kanki out of this. Nope. Instead, everybody dies. Kanki, Koku, Naki. But that's okay. Marin survived. Man, I was in complete shock. I couldn't believe it. And some of you guys may have no idea, but this changes everything. And I'm going to explain why. And this is something I've been wanting to talk about for a very, very long time. And now that Kanki's dead, I feel like I can freely discuss this subject. And this all has to do with like the real Chinese history, like the historical stuff that Kanki's character is based off of. And listen, I'm no history buff and I prefer not to have historical spoilers. I personally think it makes a story more enjoyable when you don't know what's about to happen. But unfortunately, in the Kingdom universe, people stay dropping historical spoilers. Most people know Kingdom etiquette in that you're not really supposed to talk about these things, but it happens anyway. And one such one I heard, I don't know if it's true, was a pretty big one, and it was that Kanki was going to eventually betray Shin and become a general in Yan. I'm sure this is one that many of you guys heard too, and listen, I believe this one wholeheartedly. Everything in the story up to this point made you believe that this could possibly happen. I mean, Kanki had issues with the king, Kanki had issues with Shin, and these weren't just minor issues, these were major theological issues. You could see that these guys would never be able to resolve these differences and that they would always be at odds. I mean, Hara even had a cover with this guy saying villain. It made me think that eventually Kanki would wind up on the other side and that he'd one day be an enemy. And I ultimately thought that one day Shin would actually have to clash with him. But man, in just a few short chapters, all that's out the window. And to tell the truth, I couldn't be happier. I'm happy for two reasons. The first is that the historical spoilers were wrong, which is great. And how people got that wrong, I don't even know. That's like failing a test you can cheat on, right? The second thing I was happy about was the way Hara handled Kanki's death. Look, we all know that Kingdom has some very shonen characteristics, right? But in the end, it ain't that. And in a manga about war, people are gonna die. And in this manga in particular, when the death of a major character does come, Hara executes to perfection. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all, I'm gonna be straight up. I cried. But not the ugly Viola Davis snot dripping out your nose cry. It was like the little bit of a, misty-eyed somber type thing. But how could you not when you have moments like you see that Kanki and his men are not going to surrender, and just as they're getting ready to fight one last time to the death, Kokuo tugs on Kanki's cape. And she says, "Boss, sorry to ask now, but here at the end, would you tell us what you always do?" And then Kanki, with the same smirk we've seen a million times, and as cool and as confident as ever, tells his men, "Don't worry, everybody. Everything will turn out just fine." Bruh, at that point, I was just no more good. And that was just one of the million things in these last few chapters that hit on so many levels. But now in retrospect, looking back on it, I mean, I guess horror was giving us breadcrumbs that Kanki was about to die, because he was really starting to flesh the character out, right? Like, horror really began to dive into Kanki's history and reveal many of the things we wanted to know about the character since the beginning. We see pretty much everything that's transpired with Kanki since around the age of 13. Which is really interesting that we don't know anything about Kanki before that age, because it kind of keeps a little bit of mystery there. And like the theory that Kanki and Karen might actually be brother and sister is still very much alive and well. And I'm honestly hopeful that one day we get to flesh out more of Kanki's backstory, because there's obviously a lot of things that happened before we meet Kanki. I mean, he's already a great fighter when we meet him. We see a 13-ish-year-old boy take down 5 grown men fairly easily. Like, where did he learn those skills? And even when we learn about Kanki's rage and ideology that pretty much everyone in the world is his enemy except the oppressed, this isn't something that he just came up with on the spot because he was around this group of abused kids. This is definitely something deeper, and definitely something that Kanki had already formulated in his head long before he met this group of kids. So whatever happened to Kanki in his past, which led to him being found half dead on the side of the road, I'd say has a pretty good shot of being the reason why Kanki is the way Kanki is. Now, did the other stuff play a major part, like the death of Shio? Sure. But I just think that there's more to this story, especially before the age of 13, that helped to shape and mold the Kanki that we know. And in hindsight, can I even say that we knew the guy? I mean, horror hit us with surprise after surprise. I mean, who would have ever thought that the reason that the Saki clan was so horrific was that that was the only way for Kanki to be able to protect them. And even though it started out as like a necessary evil in order to keep the people he wanted to keep safe, it eventually had the byproduct of morphing into something even greater, where it made him one of the most feared generals throughout all of China. Something else we learned about Kanki was that he wasn't just willing to go to extremes to protect the people he cared about, but he was also willing to go to extremes if he failed to protect those people. Whether it be when he personally beheaded hundreds or even thousands of people as revenge for the death of Shio, or when he decided it'd be a good idea to behead 100,000 Zhao soldiers as compensation for the death of Rido. Blood was apparently Kanki's love language, and if you meant something to him and died, somebody was going to be paying a severe price. But ultimately, it's kind of ironic that the thing that made Kanki so strong and feared throughout the land is also in part a reason of why he was defeated in the first place. When it came to Kanki, all of Zhao was motivated to kill him. They trained and schemed and were extremely prepared for this moment. They were so committed to the cause that the people of Sekirei poisoned their own wells. And the thing that was most shocking to me is that Riboku, since the beginning of this campaign, had his sights set on Kanki. Because not only did he want revenge, but he also knew that if they could kill Kanki, who in Riboku's words was one of the best known of the 6th great generals, then they'd be able to turn the tide in the war against Qin. And Riboku, to his credit, predicted that it wasn't going to be clean and it wasn't going to be easy. And when this battle got down to the nitty-gritty, man, Riboku's life was hanging by a thread a few times. But in the end, even though it came down to the wire, Riboku managed to survive this one and defeat Kanki. And look, while we're talking about Riboku, man, we have to admit that he is one of the best generals in Kingdom. I mean, we've got to give the man his flowers. He's bounced back tremendously from some of his more recent defeats. And when it comes right down to it, guys, this guy is responsible for the death of Oki, Dukio, and now Kanki. One of the 3 great heavens of Zhao is responsible for taking out 2 6th great generals and someone who was also able to be a part of the 6th great generals if he chose. In the words of both Osen and Shohiken, we may have looked down on Riboku far too much. But all is not lost. Just as in the cases of when the Duke and Oki died, they left Shin an inheritance, Kanki in turn also left Shin an inheritance. When Oki died, he left Shin his glaive. When the Duke died, he left Shin his shield. Now, when Kanki dies, he leaves Shin Ogiko. Yep, in typical Kanki fashion, we get Ogiko. But that isn't it. Kanki would not troll Shin that bad. He also entrusts him with Marin and the Saki clan. Which wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't for the fact that Naki's suicidal ass just threw his life away. So what happens here is Shin's army is going to get a little bit of a trade-off. We lose Naki's scouting abilities, but we gain the Saki clan's healing ability. So it is what it is. It really isn't too bad. We don't really know what Ogiko and Marin can actually do. And Kanki actually does hint that Ogiko has really good instinctual abilities. So far, we only know what the Saki clan brings to the table, as they were pretty much able to revive the Monster Strength Trio when all of them were pretty much knocking at death's door. So now the next time Shin dies, we're already prepared. We don't have to worry about doing that thing we had to do with Kyokai again, right? Too soon. But what's more important than what Shin actually inherited from Kanki is why Kanki left them with Shin in the first place. Remember, Kanki could have left all that with Moten. Now, Kanki claims that he left them with Shin because his guys are basically simple idiots. But obviously it goes a little more deeper than that, right? We learn from the Saki clan that Kanki actually likes Shin. Now, we know that Shin couldn't stand Kanki, and on the surface it might look that Kanki didn't like Shin. But after learning all about Kanki's past, it's pretty obvious, even with the nickname that he gives Shin, that he likes him. And what does he always call him? Slave boy. So Shin, just like the others Kanki protects, was once on the bottom of the barrel, was once oppressed. And as we know, those people are the only type of people that Kanki cares about. So deep down, Kanki believes the Saki clan, which is the people that he treasures the most, his hometown, is safe with Shin, and that he can trust them to protect them just as well as he would have. So what happens next? Guys, listen, the death of Kanki is a big deal. I'm sure we are about to see reaction throughout all of China, but one thing is for sure, everyone is going to think that Shin has been severely weakened. Just after Eisei has revived the 6th grade general system where he's only bought back 5 of them, we are already down to 4, which means we now have 2 open spots, which actually makes me begin to speculate, are we about to lose another one of the 6th grade generals? Because that'll give us those 3 slots we need for Shin, Ohan, and Moten to ascend to that rank. I'd hate to see it happen, but you never know, right? But anyway, guys, getting back to the main subject of this video, which is Kanki. We lost ourselves a real one here, guys. Kanki is sorely going to be missed in this manga. He was a very popular character, super badass, and he was even one of my favorites. And it was good to see him go out on his own terms, still trying to win even at the very end. And even when he got to the end of that road, he was still unfazed, as he died with that classic Kanki smirk on his face. Almost as if his plan hasn't ended just yet and there's still some way he could win. And you can almost hear him say his classic line, "If you just do as I say, everything will turn out just fine." But anyway, guys, that does it for this video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like or a super thanks to support all my bad habits. And feel free to share, comment, and subscribe. Peace out.